Hello. I wanted to do a little video about thermostats. Fascinating, I know. I had to change the thermostat on my current car, which is from a Mercedes CLS350 CDI. It's an engine that Mercedes have been making for years and years. It was previously in the 320 CDIs, now it's all the 350s, and then the modern brand new cars have got something else. It's the OM642 engine. But I thought I'd do a little thing because some people have no idea. I've come to realise what the thermostat does, how it works. This one was quite interesting because I noticed the car wasn't getting up to temperature, nowhere near, just before Christmas. And it wouldn't get above maybe 50 degrees maximum, more like 45, which is really low. This particular car should get up to sort of 85, 90 when the maximum, really. So it should be in the 80s degrees C. So it wasn't getting anywhere near, it certainly wouldn't get to 60 degrees. So I presumed that the thermostat was stuck open. And given that it's a 2013 car, I thought it's not unusual for a thermostat to fail and stick open and not closed. If anything, I'd rather it stick open than stick closed, because if the thermostat sticks closed and won't open, your engine's going to overheat and it'll do more damage. The consequences of the thermostat being stuck open is a loss in efficiency, really. So it's not quite as bad. But anyway, I don't like that, so I wanted to get it changed. So I changed it out already. That's not the point of the video. When I took it out though, first thing I looked at, because I was dead interested to see, I wonder if it's stuck open. So I'm looking in, and as I'm looking in, it's completely closed. And if you look in the end as well, there's not even a crack of light coming through. If you don't know, this little black bit here is the bit that opens and closes as it heats up and cools down. So generally, this is a bit of a special thermostat. Again, I'd never seen one that has a little electrical connector on the end. What's that, I thought? Well, these Mercedes thermostats have a little heater element inside them just to make it extra expensive and a little bit fancy. So anyway, that's not really the point. When I opened it, I realised it was shut, and I thought, okay then. I wonder if it will open. So I thought, what I'll do is I'll put it in some warm water and let's see if it begins to open. Because if it's closed at the moment, that suggests to me that it will open before it ought to, which is why it's cooling the car too much and it's not getting up to temperature. But I've not seen that before, personally. I haven't seen a thermostat that starts opening at a really low temperature before. I'd just like to know what's failed, really, and why it's failed, just because. So I'm going to show you now, because it was quite surprising to me, really. I'm going to put it in some warm water, and we can have a look at the temperature of the water using this little infrared thermometer. And this thermostat should open at something like 90 degrees. So I'm going to start off with cooler water and then make it warmer and warmer until it opens. And we'll see what temperature it begins to open at. Right now, here's a bowl of warm water. This is just straight from my hot tap in the kitchen. Now, if I point this and just pull the trigger, it's 41 degrees. Not very warm at all. I'm going to dunk this in, so this is going to simulate the warm water from the engine. I'm just going to pop it just there, and I'm going to bring the camera over. Okay, so I've just dunked this into 41 degree water. Can you see already a little crack of light coming from within the thermostat? It's already starting to open. And we know this because we can see the light there, and you'll start to see liquid as well. In fact, there's liquid already in there. So at 41 degrees, this thermostat is already starting to open. In fact, it's opening a little bit more, less than half the temperature that it should be when it should be starting to open. So definitely a failed thermostat, and I know this because I've just taken the car for a drive and it gets up to temperature just perfectly now. But if we take this just out, it'll close back up, and you'll see, it'll probably take a moment to do it. Perhaps if we just pop it here on a bit of kitchen towel. I'll come back to that in just a second. If we just have a look at the thermostat, now it's been sat for a moment, you can see there's no sign of any light creeping through where the thermostat seal is. It's quite hard to see inside here with the camera. But this part here, I'll put it down to show you. This part inside this main spring here is where the sensing element is. This particular thermostat with this electrical connector has a heater element which just sits right in the core there, but ignore that. It's not really that relevant to most thermostats. And this black bit is the seal, and that will start to move this way, pointing that way. It'll start to move this way to open the thermostat, and it just moves the seal away and it allows the water to flow through that crack that we saw forming when we had it in the bowl of water just a second ago. So yeah, that's how your thermostat works, and that's how it fails. I've not seen my one fail like that before. So yeah, I just thought it was interesting to share, that was all. So yeah, it's a bit funny. I wanted to do this sort of experiment where I started at a low temperature of about 40 degrees and then move up and up to see what temperature it starts to open, and it opened immediately at 41 degrees when it should be opening at 90 degrees. So it's gone a hell of a long way out. But these thermostats, they should be dead cheap. I mean, a thermostat for your car most of the time be about £20, and it should be a fairly straightforward job to replace it and not an expensive job, which is why I'd recommend do it if you've got a car that's a certain amount of years old. You know, I don't know, what's this car? This is 8 years old now. This thermostat actually was £150 because Mercedes. No other real reason really. But yeah, it needed doing, so we did it anyway. But yeah, they work with, in the same way that your radiator valves work on your, there used to be a radiator down here. Thermostatic radiator valves work in the same way. They have a little wax element that sits inside, and they, as it gets warmer, it expands and it opens or closes a valve. So it's the same way your engine works. Is once it reaches the temperature it's designed for, which should be about 90 degrees for this one, it should start to expand and open up and open that valve and let the coolant water circulate, which will cool your engine block down. And then once it cools to a temperature that's enough, it'll start to close the valve again, and obviously it'll modulate that around the right temperature that it's designed for. That's how your thermostat works basically. Anyway, that's just a little bit about thermostats and how they break and how they can ruin your car. So yeah, if you've got any concerns at all about your cooling temperature, so if your car can't maintain its temperature very well, whether it's getting too hot or too cold, change your thermostat out. I ummed and ahed, being the cheapo that I am, over whether to buy aftermarket parts or even whether I should try and buy the temperature sensing elements and just retain the housing, which would be cheaper. In the end, I decided, no, buy OEM. It's something that's so critical and can ruin your car for the sake of something that's so critical. Buy the real thing. So I bought the real thing. The BMW, in case those of you that are wondering, it is going to be featuring at some point. Today, I must admit, so it's -5 outside, and I spent about two and a half hours doing this. It's not a 5-minute job on these 350 CDIs. You've got to remove loads of stuff. You've got to remove the under trays to be able to drain the coolant out. Then you've got to remove the aluminium charge pipe, move a fuel line out the way just to be able to get the thermostat out. And it's misleading. It's very misleading. The thermostat, it sits right there on the top of the engine. Oh, I can see it. Look, it's right there. Dead easy, 5-minute job. It's not a 5-minute job. I'll tell you why, because there's one bolt that hides and you can't get it out. And it's about this long as well, for some unbeknownst reason. So anyway, it took a few hours to do that in bitter cold. Well, it's bitter to me. Wherever you live in the world, you might tell me -5 is not bitter, but it's bitter to me. So I won't be doing any work on the Beamer until the temperatures get above 10 degrees. something like that. So a little bit to go yet, and then we'll be whipping that engine out and ripping it to pieces and then crying over how badly damaged the crankshaft is. Anyway, that's all for now. I'll see if I can find any other content to fill the time before we can whip the engine out of the 530D. See you later.